and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Alison and I'm with Hannah Wallen, host of HBR Talk. And Hannah has a really great topic for us this week. So Hannah, tell us the topic and why you chose it.
The topic this week is going to be how to raise strong female characters. The reason I chose this is because we have a tendency to discuss a lot in the nerd community, I guess you could say, about how to create strong female characters in fiction, and a lot of that discussion seems to be very offensive to modern women who are part of victim ideologies, even if they're not feminist, if they're progressive or they're politically correct. They don't tend to be able to appreciate the nuance of discussion on how to create strong female characters. So I got to thinking about it, and I realized it's because they don't know how to raise strong women, how to be, they don't understand strength, right? They don't understand strength of character. They don't understand accountability. They don't understand resilience. They don't understand toughness. And they really feel targeted by any such expectations. And they'll actually treat expectations of any type of positive characteristics that are valuable towards an individual's success in their outcomes. Like, say, you want to be you want a job that's going to require you to get a degree. You're going to have to tough out going through the university process. You're going to have to apply yourself. You'll have to show not just accountability, but diligence. And, you're essentially going to have to work for it. And that's, both sexes are expected to do that, right? But it's considered misogynistic if a woman is expected to do that just as much as a man is. And the same thing with, wanting to be the CEO of a company, wanting to go into a combat position in the military. Anything that men achieve through a combination of strength of character, by which I mean essentially having responsible characteristics, mindfulness, not just resilience and toughness, but wisdom about how to apply them, and personal accountability and so on. Women get very butthurt. I can't really sugarcoat that.
At least the vocal ones, like the ones who are seeped in this kind of victim mentality.
Right. Well, even like when you start getting down to more and more subtle questions of resilience and personal accountability and things like that, you can even find women who are anti-feminist who will balk at some level of equality with men in terms of social expectations for
or equivalent
demonstrating equivalent expectations for demonstrating good character that earns them respectability in their community. So there are significant differences in the way that we raise little boys versus little girls, and what we communicate to them about what makes them valuable as people, and what we communicate to them as far as what is expected of them in terms of their relationship to the rest of their community. And I think that needs to be addressed. It's what's, in our society, I think a lot of our problems are caused by the fact that we don't have the same expectations of women as we do of men. So we have this underlying current that allows for excuses that get used to pass laws and enact policy that discriminate against men on behalf of women's desire to feel safe and secure. That we just accept this as a society. Nobody questions it because we have these lower expectations of women and these higher expectations of men. So I want to talk, we're going to have Prim Reaper on, and, as long as nothing comes up, I know she's a mommy with a little one. So there's always that possibility. And we've had that with other guests where, little ones sometimes take precedence, right? Moms and dads sometimes have to cancel. But hopefully, Prim Reaper is expected to be on, and she's been real consistent as being on when we've asked her. So, and I think she'll be a good person to discuss this because she's raising a little girl.
Yeah, definitely. She has an invested interest in this topic. Just to one of the things that you mentioned, this idea that women get upset, or at least certain types of women get upset when they are held to a similar standard to men or expectation to men. I remember there was a couple months ago that myself and Mike went over this individual who, it was a British woman who was complaining about women in high positions in companies and how they weren't achieving, and one of the particular complaints that really stuck with me is she said, we're expected, if you want to get to the top spot, if we want to get to the CEO spot, we're expected to be better than all the men. I'm like, well, yes, so is the man who gets to the top spot.
Yeah.
And it's that incredible blindness to realizing that the same thing is expected of men. And when it is expected of you as a woman, that doesn't mean you're being discriminated against. If you want to be a CEO of a company, you have to be better than all the other men and women. And if a man wants to be a CEO of the company, he also has to be better than all of the other men and women. And the fact that she could even say that without even realizing what it was she was saying and revealing about herself. Oh, I can't believe that in order to win a race, I have to be better than all the other racers. Men don't have to be better than all the other racers to win races. I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about it, and yet people don't call her out on that. And she doesn't even call herself out on that because it's so ridiculous. Of course you have to be better to win. Of course you have to be better.
It's ingrained, I'm telling you.
It's the very nature of the idea of it. And it tells something about how she views herself and how she views herself in the world, that she could even say something like that she should be given something that men are expected to be better than any other man to get. And it speaks to that idea that women have value by virtue of simply existing, and men have to earn their value. But what's really interesting to me is when I look at, for example, studies into the resilience, like the psychological resilience of the genders, men are actually better able to engage in psychological scoping. They have better psychological coping skills. And one of the reasons why they do is because they are able to be, and I know this sounds a little bit odd, they're naturally able to be kinder to themselves and do what they need to do in-house, inside themselves, to pick themselves back up and get back onto the horse. Whereas,
see, this is something that I mentioned in the previous.
Externalize that. They externalize it, and they feel like either incapable, or they over-internalize it and they say, I'm no longer capable of this. I am the problem. I can't deal with this. And it's a destructive cycle. Instead of seeing yourself as in terms of your actions and saying, well, I can take the actions to get better the way men do, women see it as an immutable characteristic and then just shame themselves for it. And it's
or they blame the people around them for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, what happens when you are dealing with something that you can't face in yourself? You project it outward.
Mm-hmm.
And to absolutely no good effect. But it's something that we teach women, that, if feminists actually identified these kinds of things, these kinds of attitudes, and said, we're going to actually teach real resilience. We're going to call out women who say, well, why, as a woman, when I want to be the CEO of a company, why do I have to be better than all the other men? And they actually call that out and say, well, everybody does. Anybody who wants to win a race has to be better than all the other races, women included, men included. And the fact that you said that illustrates a lot about your attitude of entitlement. And to call that kind of attitude out, the lack of resilience it creates in women, I would actually be more sympathetic to the feminine. Well, I would be deeply sympathetic to the feminist position if they did things like that. If they actually developed resilience in women, and they actually taught women to see themselves more in terms of their actions, to challenge their own attitudes that they are entitled because they're women. Well, if your value is because you're a woman, then none of your actions will ever matter more than the fact that you're a woman. How depressing.
It is. And it's something that I think it cripples our whole society, and it cripples both sexes in different ways. And I think it's important, if we want to have a future for men and boys, right? They cannot be, to draw from the Bible, they cannot be unequally yoked, right? The argument that middle-aged men who date women in their late 20s and early 30s are pseudo-pedophiles cannot become true by virtue of women's failure to reach adulthood.
Mm.
Right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
otherwise, how can men ever have partners? How can men ever have coworkers that they can rely on who happen to be female? How can men ever rely on women to be an equal partner in society, in the development and maintenance of society, if women are not expected to live up to all of the principles of equality, all
Well,
of the
or
components of
ethical
equality?
ethical behavior. And I mean, how can women live up to the natural powers that are granted to them by virtue of being women?
Yeah.
And you can see all over the place. Just one example, and you can do it on your own at home. Watch a Hollywood movie and watch how many times something happens and the camera goes to the woman and she responds to it. And it's very critical in that scene that they show the woman's response, because that is the indication of how the audience is supposed to respond to something. Women model how we respond to things. And
Even movies about men's journeys do that.
Yep. And women model how we respond to things, everything, including men. That's an incredible power. And if women are not taught to take responsibility for that power, they can end up unintentionally misusing it. And that's not a good place for society to be in. I apologize. Simon has decided he wants to make commentary, although his commentary solely subsists of purring.
Well, we must have commentary for the cat. I think the cat just likes this discussion.
Yeah, I know. Trying to cover me in hair. All right, you.
Well, no outfit is complete without a few pet hairs on it.
Oh, exactly.
But even if you don't have pets, I have cat hair on my clothes from the cat that is not ours, that lives in the neighborhood, that loves us and comes to the door and scratches to come in so that we'll open up the door and pet her head. So, but in any case, I digress. The main point of the discussion is of course going to be, we have this issue. There's all these issues surrounding lack of strength in modern women, and an opposition to strength in modern women in a lot of ways. And I'll give a couple of other examples in the opener that I've already got in mind. But how do we get out of that situation? How do we change? What do we do? What needs to change about raising girls and the way our society addresses that? And I part of why I want to address this is because I feel like I was raised differently than a lot of girls. My parents didn't teach me that I was sugar and spice and everything nice, and they didn't teach me to base how I valued myself on other people's reactions to me. I had to leave my mark on the world just like a guy, right? I had to have a purpose and find what my purpose was, or decide what my purpose was. And I was responsible for the consequences of my actions and so on. And I think a lot of girls are denied that, maybe unintentionally by their parents, and they end up without tools they need to handle tough situations.
Like being headbutted by a cat persistently while you're trying to record a video. Isn't that right, Simon?
Oh yeah, that definitely is a major challenge.
It can be. I'm trying to keep him from toppling over the camera and
the microphone
and the microphone, and gently, so he doesn't get upset. But yes, all right. So if that topic sounds interesting to you, which is the topic of building resilience and strength of character and strength in girls, then go here and click on the eye. Click on Simon's tail, since his tail is now pointing at the eye. Thank you, Simon.
Click clearly, we're asking you to click us right in the eye because we're tough.
So click there, and it will take you directly to the stream where we talk about this. And I want to thank Hannah Wallen for coming on and telling us about this topic, and thank you for your kind attention. my lovely specimens. Have a great day.